All right, we've made it to championship bouts. Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. The bantamweight strap is on the line, and I believe Locke. I think you're up on this one, dude.
Yeah, my heart and my brain all want to bet Petr Yan here, but once you run the tape, it's a little bit difficult to confidently pull the trigger. Aljamain Sterling. The first and foremost, I want to start off by saying if anybody's breaking this fight down strictly from a grappler versus striker perspective, I think they're absolutely wrong. Like I think both guys show solid skills on the opposite martial art as well too. Like Petr Yan, you watch the Magomedov fight, his only loss in his MMA career, loses that fight, goes out there, wins a fight, gets the rematch right away with Magomedov, and beats him and shows an ever improving wrestling game, takes him down a couple times. But not to mention, even in that first fight, when he's getting taken down, he's not just laying off his back. He's not just this Muay Thai killer. He has some good jiu-jitsu off his back too. He's throwing up triangles, he's throwing up arm bars. He's remaining active. Maybe not as active as Aljamain Sterling may be, but at least active enough to at least note about it. But that's Petr Yan's game. It is the striking. It's methodically picking you apart, moving forward, waiting for those openings and throwing his big shots and throwing his big strikes and just debilitating you over 5 minutes, or 5 rounds. The guy is not a one-punch knockout power kind of guy. That's not his game. He wants to pick you apart. And that's where the issue might be. Like his patience might be his downfall in this fight, where Aljamain Sterling, a little bit more higher volume. And even though his shots may not have the biggest pop and may not be as damaging as Petr Yan's, he's going to have the numbers. He's going to have the volume here. And I think his movement of staying on the outside, staying away from the combinations of Petr Yan will pay dividends for him here. For all we know, it's going to come the 4th round and Aljo's up 3 rounds to nothing, from a very low active fight in terms of Petr Yan, and Aljamain Sterling still going out there, running laps around the cage, but still throwing out enough strikes out there to get the judges' nod in those rounds. I like Sterling in this fight. Even if he like gets the takedown or clinches up against Petr Yan up against the cage and gets onto his back and backpacks him for 5 minutes, that's a round right there. Whereas Petr Yan, his way of winning is just outstriking you. And he's close to giving up rounds to Jimmy Rivera until he rocks him late in those fights in the first and second round, rocks him right at the end there and just, wins the round just based off of that. What if he doesn't touch Aljo here and he just lets Aljo dictate the pace and lets Aljo get his volume off? Then he's giving away rounds. Maybe I do believe if anybody's winning this fight later, it's probably going to be Yan, given the fact that he has 5-round experience. We haven't seen Aljamain Sterling go that full 25 minutes before. There are fights where we see him running laps around the cage at the end of a 3-round fight, and then there's fights like the Pedro Munoz fight where we see him kind of not as fresh and not as much cardio at the end of the 3rd round. But Pedro Munoz, what does he do? He continuously moves forward. He throws volume himself. He throws heat. He throws his calf kicks, and he throws a lot of body shots too, which I think that Petr Yan, he mixes it up pretty well, but he just doesn't mix it up well enough. And I know that sounds redundant, but Pedro Munoz, you're getting volume. With Yan, you're getting that slow, methodical, pick you apart, and I'm hoping to either finish you late or then win the later rounds to take the decision here. But Aljo's volume style is a huge concern here for Yan, and if he's not going to knock him out with one punch, I truly think that Marlon Moraes knockout of Aljo was a bit of an anomaly, and I think people might be reading into that a little bit too much. But you're not going to see me running to the betting window to bet against a guy like Petr Yan. The guy is an absolute beast, and he could find a way to win here. But given what we've seen in the cage thus far, I like Aljo. I like the style that he brings here against Yan. I think he matches stylistically very well. And again, if people think that if he doesn't get a takedown here that he's going to lose, they're wrong. They're going to be surprised that Aljo can actually win rounds on the feet here. So, yeah, I like Aljo. I like him to win by decision. But the spot that I feel most comfortable about, we talked about this on the prop show, is the over. I don't think that we're going to see a quick finish from either guy here. The over 2.5, over 3.5, I think is a good spot, as I do see this fight getting extended into championship rounds. But if you're putting a gun to my head and saying, who do you think wins? I'm going to go with the Aljamain Sterling side. And I think he takes this fight by decision.
Love it. Cody, what do you think, man?
You can argue this fight for hours, and I know we're running out of time now, so we can't do this, but both guys are the best in the world. Both guys have lots of merit. Both guys can win this fight in multiple ways. I favor Petr Yan's forward pressure, backing him up, landing the better shots, the combinations, working the legs, hopefully keeping this fight standing in volume. But yeah, Aljamain Sterling can do it all as well. His timing to the takedowns is second to none. He's very good at scrambling. He's very good at getting the back. Once he puts the body triangle in you, you're not going anywhere. But also, can he strike? Can he strike? He outstruck Pedro Munoz and Jimmy Rivera. Why? Because he's so much faster than all these guys. He's got an excellent jab. And this is something Guru talked about last week, not last week, but when we talked about Kamaru Usman. Usman's not one of these big power punchers, but he's got a really long jab, and he's very accurate with it. And against these shorter guys, he just stifles you in your attack. You're moving in, he hits you. As you go to let your hands go, he's gone. He stifles guys routinely. He's got skills everywhere. They're both high-level grapplers. They both got great cardio. Like, man, you can't go wrong both ways. This is the people's main event. This is the best fight on the entire card. I absolutely can't wait out of it. We want to make money, though, so let's not argue on either side. Let's look at those overs. The over 2.5, the over 3.5, the fight goes the distance, right? At 2.5, you're looking at minus 205. Over 3.5 at minus 127. Over 4.5, minus 105. You can take fight goes the distance. It's plus 100. With Petr Yan, this guy is a tremendous striker, but yeah, he's not one of these first-round KO guys, right? He tends to break you down. You see it in the Jose Aldo fight. He hits Jose Aldo with everything but the kitchen sink, really does break him down, maybe even drops around to Jose Aldo, but he takes a little bit of time to get going. You see that in a lot of these spots. It takes time. You know, it's volume, it's break you down, it's put the pressure on you, and eventually you'll succumb to it. With Aljamain Sterling, he could submit you, but I don't think he's knocking him out, certainly. And that game plan of stick and move, stick and move, stick and move, it's just going to kill time off the clock, right? So when you have one guy that's a defensive counterpuncher versus one guy in Petr Yan that's going to be coming forward, again, Yan's always going to be dangerous, but they're 135-pound fighters. The one-punch KO is not quite there for Yan. The one-punch KO is not there for Sterling. The submission's not on the table. We're banking up rounds. Both guys are smart. Both guys have very high ring IQ. And I think there is going to be a feeling out process. I think with Yan, a lot of the times, you know, we remember the combinations. What we don't remember until we go back and rewatch a lot of these fights is the lulls. Sometimes he'll sit there and stare at you, almost analyzing what the next move is. And with Sterling, again, he's playing Matador. He wants you to come forward. He wants to counter on you. If you want to take a step back, he'll come forward. But it's like a John Jones style. It's a lot of range-finder kicks. You know, it's a lot of rinky-dink strikes to keep you to the outside, but it racks up points in the judges' scorecards. Regardless which way this fight goes, I think it racks up time. And so time is going to be the key here. Over 2.5, over 3.5, over 4.5, or fight goes the distance. The fight goes the distance and the over 4.5 are like 5 points difference or something. So like maybe just take the over 4.5 in case something did get greasy late. But yeah, I think that this fight is going to be entertaining. It's going to be thrilling. It's going to be a good fight. And I think it's going to bank in some rounds. So that's why I'm looking at the overs as the most profitable lean on this fight.
Right on, Guru. Who you got?
Yeah, that's when you know there's a good fight, man, because there's some polarizing opinions on this fight. Because I'm completely on the opposite side, man. I think Petr Yan is going to dominate this fight. I really do. I think, when I look at the matchup with Aljamain Sterling, I do think that his striking is a little bit overrated, man. I mean, he likes to pot shot and move, but you see, I mean, these guys that he's fighting like Pedro Munoz, what is Pedro Munoz known for? I mean, he doesn't really have, the best composure. He swings and misses all the time. I mean, the guy's a walking punching bag in a lot of his fights, and he's super durable. He's a beast, but Petr Yan has that forward pressure with the composure, man. He's not going to be swinging in the air and missing and letting Aljamain get out. He's going to be closing the distance. I think he's going to be chopping at Aljamain's legs, and I really think he's just going to beat him up with that forward pressure, man. I don't think Aljamain has the boxing to compete with the guy like Petr Yan in the pocket. I mean, you see him, even though this fight's from a little while ago, even when he's fighting guys like Brett Johns, and he's literally like running out of boxing range. He doesn't even want to be in there with a guy like that, who I don't think has nearly the power, the combinations, the savviness of a guy like Petr Yan, man. And I just don't really, if you look at those Magomedov fights versus Petr Yan, I don't see Aljamain Sterling hitting takedowns on the guy. I actually think Petr Yan can go in there and hit takedowns on Aljamain Sterling. I don't think he should do it, but I think he actually will be able to hit takedowns on Aljamain Sterling, scramble with him. And I mean, obviously, if Aljamain can get into one of those dominant positions, like if he could take the back or, get into mount or something, he's going to have a chance to get a finish because he has a lot of funky submissions. He's long and, he can get you in some bad positions. But I feel like Petr Yan is going to be real hard to take down and control. I think that on the feet, he's just going to butcher him. And one thing that I do see with Aljo is, off the breaks, I don't really like his defense off the breaks. And you see Petr Yan, man, he lands high kicks off the breaks, flying knees off the break. And I see Aljamain Sterling ducking his head to the right all the time when he's getting out of the clinch. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Petr Yan knocked him out with the head kick off the break, a flying knee, some sort of real nasty knockout. But yeah, I'm going to go with Petr Yan, man. I think Petr Yan's actually going to dominate the fight.
What up, Locke?
Yeah, just two things that I want to say here. One, I think whoever wins this fight could absolutely come out on the other side looking like a -300, making the other side look like a complete dumbass, right? But on the one more thing that I want to add about Petr Yan, the majority of his camp this time around was spent down at ATT. And one thing that ATT has been implementing as of late, Thiago Moises and Pedro Munoz last week alone, the calf kick. What if we see Petr Yan go out there and start to implement the calf kick his own? The guy's already a mean kicker himself too. Yep. What if he does that, approaches that with Aljo? If Aljo wants to play on the outside, his leg is still going to be there to be kicked. So if he targets that calf kick, yeah, it might be a quicker night for Aljo in terms of losing. But yeah, we haven't seen that historically from Yan. He is a kicker, but he doesn't notoriously aim for the calf like these ATT guys have as of late. But just that is just a bit of information I think some people might be overlooking, but that is something that ATT guys are definitely taking under their wing, just like MMA Masters guys as well. So that's something to keep an eye out for here. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Locke, and I think that's a great point, man. You know, we're talking about the jab of Aljo. If as soon as he's throwing that jab, man, putting that weight on that front leg, man, Yan could really tear him up. I'm with Guru on this one. So first off, I just got to say, guys, I've been thinking about this fight for months, and I really do think it's a very close fight. But at the same time, Locke, you just said you think somebody might come out here and just look like the clear-cut favorite. I'm getting a similar vibe, man. And when it comes down to that, I do think I got to back Petr Yan in this spot. I do think Aljo probably has some success with the wrestling early on. I do think he probably hits some takedowns. But my God, to come out here in a 5-round fight with a guy with the pace and the cardio and the output of a Petr Yan, to be able to do that over 5 rounds, maybe I see Aljo having some success early on, but I think there's a good chance at some point we see Aljo abandon the takedowns just due to the fact that he knows he's not going to be able to go 5 rounds doing that. Then again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he can go out there and take this guy down 5 rounds straight. A guy training with Merab Dvalishvili, who, for my money, now that Khabib's out of the game, probably one of the best wrestlers out there. And Aljo is absolutely shoring that skill set up. I mean, a wrestler by trade, that's how he came up. He's got the skills to pay the bills, no doubt. But, I do think that we see Petr Yan as this fight progresses. I think this could be very close early on. I do feel like we see Petr Yan find his groove, find that niche, and slowly cruise out ahead. I think there's a chance that we see Petr Yan end this fight late, but I think we could also see the scorecards as well. For my money, I'm going to take Petr Yan. I just think this little dude is so nasty, so highly skilled, does a very good job of disguising strikes. Guru, great point about what this guy can do off the breaks. I'm on Petr Yan in this one. I think he gets it done. I think we're looking at an and still situation here.